Okay, this is my review, Spider-Man 3, and I can already kind of tell this is going to be a very polarizing review, getting into it, because it's a movie that not a lot of people really like. In fact, a lot of people hate it. There's also a lot of people that, think it's okay, they enjoy it, they like it, and, I'm one of those people. You guys have to realize that this movie came out at a time, 2007, when I was the perfect age and in the perfect mindset to enjoy this movie and like it just for what I was. I was 7, I was a little kid, and I had just come off the high that was Spider-Man 2. So, of course I was going to love this movie. No matter what they did, no matter how it was going to end up, I was going to love this movie. A lot of my most cherished childhood memories and some of my most innocent and most beloved memories were surrounded by this movie. And actually, it wasn't even about the movie. It was the hype surrounding the movie. My first actual example of fanboy hype and getting so excited for a movie that you couldn't wait for it was with Spider-Man 3. I share that same hype with a lot of movies right now, like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, or Spider-Man Homecoming, or Thor Ragnarok, or Avengers Infinity War. But the first instance of that, for me at least, was Spider-Man 3. So this movie is still a huge deal to me. After Spider-Man 4 had come out, me and my cousin Joe, who was my best friend at the time, would just speculate about all the stuff that would happen in a possible Spider-Man 3 movie. Oh, who's the villain going to be? Oh, no, it's going to be Mysterio. Oh, it's going to be Sandman. Oh, it's going to be Electro. Oh, it's going to be the Sinister Six. Who fucking knows? It's going to be amazing. If you guys are familiar with the Angry Video Game Nerd or James Rolfe, he did a video review a while back of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. And he explained in that movie all his excitement before going into the movie and before it had even come out. And watching that review, it kind of described and explained, and I found very similar to my excitement surrounding this movie. So while I may have a lot of fond memories surrounding this movie, I want to let you guys know I'm going to give this movie a fair review. And for me to be able to do that for you guys, I need to review this movie in 2 separate camps. I want to just give my thoughts on certain things from 2 different point of views entirely. The point of view of a little kid who saw this movie and thought it was the best thing in his entire life, and also the film critic now who realizes that the movie is not as perfect as he thought it was when he was a little kid. And it's not like I don't understand or get the frustration and disappointment surrounding this movie. Trust me, I do. I'm a Spider-Man fan also. I get why Spider-Man fans and comic book fans are pissed off about this movie and why they were left disappointed way back in 2007. I'm gonna address that, don't worry. I'm just gonna start with this one right off the bat because it's basically the main selling point of this movie, and it honestly should not have been, in my opinion, and that is the character of Venom. I would admit, they fucked Venom up in this movie severely. Hell, they never even referred to him as Venom. We got the Green Goblin referred to as Green Goblin. We even had Dr. Octopus referred to as Dr. Octopus, which is a much sillier name than Venom is. But never once in the movie do they actually refer to him as fucking Venom. Hell, he's never even referred to by himself as Venom. Venom in the comics, it's 2 different personalities sharing one being. It's the symbiote and it's Eddie Brock. So they never refer to themselves as I or anything like that. They refer to themselves as we or as Venoms. Not to mention, they actually fuck up Eddie Brock's character as well, who's actually one of the few good and interesting Spider-Man villains out there. The uninitiated, Eddie Brock in the comic books was a Daily Bugle reporter who was doing an expose on a serial killer in New York calling himself the Sin Eater. Brock got a tip-off about a possible identity of the Sin Eater and did an entire expose on it, but it was revealed that he was only a pathological liar when Spider-Man turned in the actual Sin Eater. This made Brock look like a liar himself, and he was eventually fired from the Daily Bugle and was just left writing newspaper tabloids. This is where his hatred for Peter Parker and Spider-Man stems from. Now, how does the movie do it? Well, Eddie Brock goes with Gwen Stacy to get coffee one day, and he just thinks that they're all of a sudden dating. So when Peter Parker is dating out with Gwen Stacy later in the movie, he's all heartbroken and hates Peter Parker. What? Oh, hell. If that isn't enough for you, he goes to church later in the movie, not to ask God for forgiveness. Oh, no, nothing like that. He goes to God to ask God if he can kill Peter Parker for him. Bitch, what? They made Eddie Brock in this movie look like such a whimpering little bitch creep. It fucking hurts me. I mean, Eddie Brock in the comics was just some guy who hit a wall of bad luck. Something that can happen to anyone in the real world. And that's not to say that it's Topher Grace's fault in the movie. It's really not. In fact, a lot of the problems in this movie don't stem from the actors themselves. It's really just the writing. And in this movie, he could have done a great job given the right material, but the problem is they don't give him shit to work with. Hell, he's barely in the movie. But I'll admit, when I was a kid, when I first saw the movie, it was just cool seeing Venom. I didn't know any of the background information regarding the character. I just knew the image of Venom, and it was just really cool seeing it on the big screen for the first time ever. The same thing goes with the actual black suit that Spider-Man wears in the movie. The whole symbiote saga and the whole alien suit storyline is my second favorite Spider-Man storyline of all time. So seeing that come to the movie is just awesome. Even if they didn't get it right for the most part, it was still just cool seeing that, and hell, I still get a kick out of it now. In fact, a lot of the stuff with the black suit in this movie is probably my favorite parts of the movie. That whole fight scene with Sandman in the subway, that's probably my favorite scene in the entire movie. There's also another plus I want to bring up with this movie. The action is still just as good as it's ever been. It may not be, Spider-Man 2 levels of great, but it's still really entertaining and fun to watch. That is one thing I can say about this movie, and I definitely will stick with, is that the movie is definitely not a boring movie. You really can't say it's a boring movie. Never did I ever say to myself that the movie's dragging on or anything like that. The movie is still really well paced, and the action scenes, like I said, are still entertaining as they ever were before. However, I can't agree with basically everyone who feels this way about the new Goblin and how they handled this character in it, because in my opinion, they completely fucked up the new Goblin angle entirely. Personally, if you ask me, if I was the director, if I was the writer behind this movie, if I had some kind of creative control behind this film, I would have gotten rid of Venom, scrapped Sandman, and this movie should have just been centered around New Goblin. That's it. This is the one storyline that has been set up over the course of 3 Spider-Man movies. Ever since the first one, this is the one story that should be taking center place. The rivalry and hatred between Peter Parker and Harry Osborn has been building through these movies. Again, like I said, ever since the first movie. Why is this the one story that gets pushed to the side? Well, the reason for this being is because the producer behind the movie, Avi Arad, really wanted to put Venom into the movie. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say put? My mistake. Let me restate that. He really wanted to shove Venom in the movie because he figured that Venom was a fan favorite character and it would definitely bring up a lot of buzz surrounding the movie. It would get more people to go see it. So Sam Raimi really wanted to have Sandman at some point in the movie because he figured he was a really visually fascinating character and he wanted to see what he could really do with the character. And you know what? That's fine. That's a good reason to have a villain in there. If you want to have 2 villains in your movie, then go ahead and have 2 villains in your movie. Just make sure that you can handle them well. Fuck it, if you can have 3 villains in your movie and handle them well, then all the more for it. I'm fine with that. But the problem is, there's just too much shit going on in this movie, and all the important stuff gets shoved to the corner. This movie has way too much shit going on in it. I get that it's a sequel, and I get sequels should be bigger and better than the last one, but this is just too fucking much going on in the movie. Hell, if the villains weren't enough for you in these movies, they also decided to throw in Gwen Stacy into the mix, as well as their father, Captain Stacy, or how we find out that Sandman was actually the guy who killed Uncle Ben this whole time, or the fact that we have to sit through Peter and Mary Jane bickering once again throughout the whole fucking movie. Scenes between Peter and Mary Jane in this movie are easily the worst part of this entire movie. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Their whole relationship in the entire original trilogy is the worst part of the original trilogy. Not that I don't get it. I get it. I can see them getting together. It's just that it goes all over the fucking place. I mean, you guys got together at the end of the last movie. Why aren't you happy? Why are you still fucking fighting each other in this movie? And I understand, relationships are not just all happily ever after in real life, okay? Some days are good, and some days are bad. I get that, okay? I mean, for the sake of the fucking plot, you know you have a bunch of other shit going on with the villains, and side characters, and other plots. Why do you need to have these characters stop and fight with each other throughout the whole fucking movie when they just got together in the last one? Wow, I really went off on a tangent there. 1 second I was talking about New Goblin, and now I'm talking about relationships. You see what this movie does to me? So does Harry become the New Goblin in this movie and actually do badass shit throughout the whole movie? No! He becomes a New Goblin at the beginning of the movie and does badass shit for like 5 minutes, and then he gets sidelined because of amnesia. Yeah, a fucking shitty soap opera plot sidelines one of the main characters in these movies. Go figure. It would have been so cool if this was something that Harry was just pretending to be, pretending to have amnesia so he can get closer to Peter and get closer to Mary Jane and just extract his revenge on them. Hell, this isn't something that I just thought up now rewatching the movie for this review. This was something I was thinking when I was watching this movie in the theater as a fucking kid. How awesome would that have been? But no, the studio thinks it's more important to have him and Mary Jane dancing in their kitchen to the twist as opposed to actually showing him do badass stuff that we were promised in the last couple movies. Fuck you! Yeah, this movie for some reason has a lot of dancing in it. Yeah, Spider-Man 3, who would have thought? And, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I really like the Peter dancing part. That's actually my favorite part in the whole movie. That scene is Peter Parker trying to be cool. That is what Peter Parker thinks being cool is. And like I said, guys, Peter Parker is an awkward nerd, okay? And he's very introverted and he doesn't really know a lot of social cliques or really what's in. That is something that Peter Parker would do. And it's not like anyone is impressed by him walking down the street. He does a bunch of passes at some girls and they just look back at him in disgust. He's supposed to fucking be a dork in that scene. That's the whole point. People say it's cringy. People say it's just weird. Yeah, that's the point. It's supposed to be cringy, and it's supposed to be weird. And for me personally, it's just funny. It just makes me laugh every single time I see it. Every time I watch it, I try not to have a grin on when that scene is on. And for some reason, I'm smiling like the fucking Cheshire Cat at the end of that scene all the fucking time. Does it add to the plot? Fuck no, it doesn't. But you know what? It's at least entertaining. It's at least memorable. It's at least funny. I'll give it that. And the whole subplot with Sandman and him actually turning out to be the guy who killed Uncle Ben, I don't really mind so much. Like I said, a lot of Spider-Man villains, and the Sandman is no exception, really don't have a lot of interesting backstory, so changing it so that he was Uncle Ben's killer in the movie isn't a horrible idea. I'm not really a big fan of when films retcon something in the previous one, just stick to the plot, but in this case, if they were going to do something interesting with it, then I don't really mind so much, and if it makes the characters a bit more interesting, then I'm all the more for it. Sam Raimi said that he changed the whole background of the Sandman character as a way of bringing Peter Parker's story full circle in this movie by having him forgive Uncle Ben's killer. And in that sense, it's a good idea, but like a lot of other stuff in the movie, it just really doesn't have a lot of time dedicated to it to evolve into anything really significant. But honestly, the main reason why I give this movie a pass, and the reason why I'm indifferent to it at best, is because this was not really Sam Raimi's fault. It wasn't really the writer's fault or the producer's fault. This was simply a studio shit show. Sony Studios are the ones that are at fault with this one. They're the ones who said, put Venom in it. They're the ones who pushed Venom for it because he was a big fan favorite character. They're the ones that said, do this, and do that, and put this in there, and put that in there, even though there was already a million other fucking things going on. Hey guys, remember that. I really want you to fucking remember that. Hell, that's the main reason why I actually enjoy the dancing scene, because it doesn't feel like a studio thing that was thrown in there. It feels like a scene that Sam Raimi actually really wanted to have just to, liven up a little bit, just to add a little bit more fun to the movie. But like I said before, I don't think this movie is as bad as everyone makes it out to be. I just think it's a passable movie at best. It's not like completely unwatchable. Some people say this is like the worst comic book movie of all time. I don't think that at all. I don't even think this is one of the worst. It's still a competently well-made film. Shots are still set alright. There's a couple good lines, and the acting is still really good in the movie. And like I said, the action scenes are entertaining as hell. And plus, it's just cool seeing all this Spider-Man-y shit in it, like the black suit in Venom and Sandman. I mean, I am a Spider-Man fan. I'm gonna get my guilty pleasure shit out of it. I mean, it doesn't make the movie great. It just is a couple stuff that, I like as guilty pleasures. Yeah, a little biased, but still, it's just some stuff that I find really entertaining. And, hell, there's gotta be a couple other Spidey fans out there that say the same thing. But, yeah, that does it for the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. And my thoughts overall on them, really good. Yeah, even with the third film and a couple problems I have with the other two, it's still a really well-made trilogy. I'd say it's your basic average trilogy. You have a good first film, great second film, and then this one. Yay. But for films that set up the groundwork for a lot of comic movies today, I can definitely see why a lot of people look toward these movies. They're well made, well filmed, well acted, well written, and overall just really well made movies. So yeah, when I see you guys next time, I won't be looking at any of these Spider-Man movies or anything else Spider-Man related. I'll just be looking at the Mark Webb made Spider-Man films. And it's all downhill from here.